Hi, everybody. So I have been telling everyone on LinkedIn and everywhere else to learn and build in public, and that things don't have to be perfect in order to start working on them and post in public about them. So I'm actually going to kind of take my own advice. And I figured since I'm learning Go for my new job at work, that I would kind of create some videos around how I would learn a new language and kind of what resources I would use and what types of projects I would build to scale myself up. Okay. All right. So, this is kind of what I would do. I would kind of think of a little project that I would want to make. So, for example, I'm going to just make a very simple Go API that I can hit an endpoint with Postman and get a hello world back. Okay. So to kind of start out, I like just did a quick Google for creating your first API. And what I liked about it is that it's using Go's built-in packages. And I thought that was kind of cool to learn it kind of like I won't say easiest, but like without any abstractions and then kind of go from there because I did start building a little bit of a project using a package called Gin and it made creating the route super easy. So I kind of wanted to backtrack a little bit and see how I create it with just the built-in packages. Alrighty. So another thing that I would probably do before starting with the Hello World, like a simple API is actually, I'll type in like go hello world, go print hello world. Um, so go by example is a website. Okay, and then you can kind of see here what they're doing. They're making this main.go file here where they're using the FMT package, and then they have a main function. And then when they do go run that file, then it's going to print it. Um, So that makes sense. So that's kind of where I would like first start, and that is where I started at work. But now I'm moving on because I actually want to be able to start building projects with Go, and for me that means I need to have an API so I can communicate with my front end. Okay. So in this tutorial, we will be building a simple API with a GET request using Go. Also, thank you to Tetiana for writing this article and on Medium, so that way I can follow it and learn Go. All right. So we're creating a hello world. All right. So we're going to use the net HTTP package to handle the requests and the FMT package for formatting the output. All right. So, yes, I would just read through the article first. All right. Honestly, I do skip ahead a little bit and kind of look at the code and then go back and read, but I'll be good. All right. So, we're using FMTF print F to write hello world message to the response writer. All right. Code explanation. Okay. So, this is the complete code, but we're going to go through it line by line. Okay, perfect. And that's how I like to kind of do things too, is I want to make sure I fully understand any code before I write it. But what we're going to do is we can actually go ahead and we're going to do main.go. All right. And we can go ahead and copy and paste this because I have a few different ways that I like to figure this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I can run it. So I'm going to say go run and then dot because I'm already in that folder. All right. And so I love when an error message can tell me what I'm doing. And I totally forgot to create the module so I can have dependencies. So we're going to go mod init. And then I'm actually going to go look it up. So that way I know, oh, and here, look, create a Go module. And so we're getting it into our folder. Then we're going to use go mod init, and then we're going to use, so they're naming it with the path. So I'm going to name it hello dash world. All right. So now we have this go mod, and you can see it's called module hello world, and then has go and the number on it. Okay, so now I'm going to try go run dot. The reason I like to do it this way is I like to try to start figuring out like what I'm doing and see if I can myself kind of parse through it, but then I know that I have the article to lean back on. So I select it and I tell it to go, and nothing is happening, but it's not ending. So I'm not sure what's going on. And it looks like I interrupted it. So I'm curious if it didn't, um, if we don't have anything that logs it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out fmt.print line listening on port 8080. All right, and then I'm going to start it again because I think my guess at least is it was starting it, but it wasn't. I don't have anything to tell me what to do. And that doesn't seem to be working perfectly either. So we are going to interrupt it. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to try moving this up. And see if that does anything. Up, and it did. All right. So see, by just kind of giving myself a shot, it's showing me what I need to do, right? So that is helpful. Now, do I know exactly why that was? No. Do I know what I need to do next? No. But now when I read through it, I feel like I have a better understanding what's happening. So let's start with what my guesses are. So my guess is that when I do the go run dot, I already know that it's like running this main file. I am assuming it's calling this main function here. Okay, and it's going to be, I think this is setting up my route. And then this is printing, listening on port 8080, which came here. I learned this here by doing some reading on Go earlier at work. So that's why I didn't Google that. And then it's actually listening at the port 8080. Okay, is my guess. So when we read through this, then now that I kind of have that understanding, then I'm going to hopefully understand more of the docs as I go through. I think this function is going to actually be when we hit this endpoint slash, that's what is getting called, is my guess. But let's go ahead and see. All right, so package main declares that the package of this file is main, which means it can be executed as a standalone program. Okay, that's what we thought. All right, import fmt net http. Okay, so I feel like that makes sense to me from my understanding with Node and SGS is you have your import statement with the packages that you're going to use. So yep, here they import the packages. All right. Function main. This is going to be our handle func and method with the route and the handler. All right, so let's figure out what this means. This is the main function, which is the entry point of the program. Okay, that's what we were thought. The first line, HTTP handle func, is registering the handler function as the request handler for incoming requests to the root path. And that's what we thought. So when we hit this endpoint here, then handler is called. Perfect. Okay, that then HTTP listen and serve function takes two arguments. The first function is the address, okay, and the second argument to the handle, and the second argument is the handler to use. Okay, so we're passing in nil, which means that we're not using any additional middlewares or handlers. It's telling the server to use the default. Okay. So what I'm curious is if we didn't need to do this print line here, if we could have done it here. So I'm actually going to get rid of that and I'm going to see if call or try to use GitHub Copilot. All right. So I've been trying to be better at AI, so I thought that would help, but I'm going to actually just Google it. HTTP, listen and serve example. So let's go. Haha, go. No pun intended. All right. Can I put So now this is what's kind of fun about learning a new language, right? It's like I'm doing this for fun. So I'm doing this just to learn how Go works and all of these methods work. So, like, my goal is not let's get this route done as quickly as possible. My goal is to kind of really understand what's going on in the code. Okay, so I'm going to try to add my print line method being called here. I'm going to try to pass it in as that argument. And then I'm going to run it. Okay. So let me try message. Okay. So this is here. They're basically adding that like that's going into a variable and then figuring out whether or not is kind of what they're thinking. Try a select statement. That sounds cool. Cause yeah, I mean, this is saying it's listening on port 8080, but we don't know for sure. Okay. I'm gonna keep Googling till I find what I want. All right. So I'm actually gonna go and look at my other monitor here because I did write out another function earlier, starting a server. Mm. Okay, so that's the thing. I was using a different package. So maybe that's where I'm getting this confused. Okay, so I'm going to go back then to Stack Overflow and I'm going to look at what this select does because I've never done that before. So that'll be something cool to learn about. Okay, so okay, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on, I think. Okay, which happens sometimes. Okay, which means we're not using any additional. Okay, it tells the server to use the default serve mux. I don't know that word. Instead, we're using handle function to register the handler. Okay, as the request handler for the root path. All right. This line of code defines a function named handler, which takes two arguments, a HTTP response writer. Okay, so here are my arguments, W and R, and then after it is the type that it is. Okay. So what I can do, and I'll show you another way that I do things when I'm looking at code, is if I don't understand something, I can use this explain. And what this is going to do is it's going to explain the code that I have. I'm using Codidium. Codium? I don't know how one says that. Defines a function named handler that takes two parameters, a response writer and an HTTP request. Okay, so that's explaining that whole thing. Do I have Copilot? Let's see. No, I don't think so. Okay. Um, okay. The HTTP response writer interface is used to construct an HTTP response. It gives you the flexibility to write data to the response in various ways. The HTTP request pointer type contains information about the incoming request. Okay, so we will use this to write our request back and our response back, and we're going to use this to get information about the request. Then uses fmt fprintf function to write the string hello world to the HTTP response writer. All right. So a little nebulous to me on the details, but basically this is going to write the phrase hello world to this argument here, which is our response writer, and it's going to send it back. So now I can go ahead and I can first start. I guess I didn't save this after I took my experiment away. I'm going to go ahead and clear my terminal, and then I'm going to run it. And then we have to add the nil back in. All right. So then we can go ahead and it should be running on 8080. So we can go ahead and do local host. I'm just going to do this and then edit it. So we don't need any of this. We can go ahead and do that. Okay. And then we should be able to do, and yay, we get our hello world. Okay. So that is a great start, but then this is also where I would try to do some more investigation. So this is where I'm going to do some logs, right? So what I know is happening is that when I started my program, we registered the root route to have this handler function be its handler. Okay, so we should be able to use fmt dot print line, all right, but instead of printing line hello world, we're going to print line saying in handler. Okay, and then I'm going to save it. So then I'm going to restart my program. All right, and I'm on my other monitor, but I'm going to send the request. All right, and you can see that we logged that we're in the handler. All right, I didn't need to really do that, but it was helpful to understand what's going on for sure. Okay, so this is logging when we hit the root index, meaning we are within the handler. Okay, so now what we can do is we can log the request that's coming in. So then I'm going to do R. All right, and I'm going to restart my server. Right, you can see that I'm going to click send. All right, I got my response back, so that means we didn't break anything. And then you can see that we have this request coming in. Okay, And so this is cool because this looks to me very similar to a request that would come in when I'm counseling the request in TypeScript or JavaScript. Okay. So then I could also log W. I'm not sure that W is going to really what W looks like because it's a response writer and I don't know what that means. But might as well take a look since we're here and I'm curious. So I'm sending the request now. All right. Oh, I didn't restart my program. I was like, that looks very similar to the request. All right, so this is the response writer. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's all right. And there's nothing really to play around with or test anymore. All right. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, so the handler function serves as the handler for incoming HTTP requests. It's the entry point for the request. It will be called every time a request is made to the server in the root path. The fmt fprintf function writes the string hello world to the response writer, which will be sent back as the response to the client. So this, I'm guessing, is going to be like reds.send with Express. It's important part of your code as it defines the behavior of API. It determines how the server will handle incoming requests and what the requests will be. All right, yep, and we did need Go installed on the computer. I used Brew to install it, so I just did Brew install Go. Worked fine. And then I went ahead as well before I started this video and I used the Go extension. Um, Okay, and then you can run and you should see a message like listening on 8080. So that's interesting because we don't see that message. So, which I did originally think we should. So this just tells me that I need to keep investigating the listen and serve method and make sure I really understand what's going on and what I'm supposed to see. Okay, and then, yep, we went ahead and did that and tested that. All right, so I'm going to end this video here, but this kind of shows you how I would start the process. I'm going to keep building. I think I'm going to, per usual, make a simple to-do list to practice the skills that I'm learning, and that will kind of get me hopefully to a point where I feel like I can use Go at work and continue the learning from there. All right, see you guys later.